What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another review for Monday Night Raw. Today we are doing the January 10th, 1994 edition, and let's get right into it. Raw begins with a recap as most shows do now in 1994. It started back in 1993, at the end of 1993, and now it just happens every single week. This time we are seeing how the match between the Quebecers versus Marty Jannetty and the 123 Kid came to happen. Then, even though Johnny Polo was a complete pussy last week, when confronted by Jannetty, this week, as any heel would, they say that they knew what they were doing all along and that the Quebecers aren't sweating facing them. Randy Savage, by the way, is now back doing commentary as well. And my biggest problem with 1993, and it's still happening in 1994, it looks like, the main promoted match is happening first. The Hart brothers are facing the Quebecers at the Royal Rumble for the titles, so if the other guys win here, I don't know what happens. Because Vince says that the match will happen if the Quebecers are able to retain. This whole match also, there was some annoying person screaming her lungs out, so I had to point that out. During the commercial break, they show us that Marty and 123 Kid thought they won the belts, but Jock had his foot on the rope, so the referee overturned it and the match continued. The Quebecers get control by doing stuff behind the ref's back. They hit a double team slingshot move from the top rope, but they don't cover the Kid. Instead, they try for it again, but this time Marty comes in for the save. Then a couple seconds later, Marty gets the hot tag, cleans house, knocks Polo off the apron, tags the Kid back in, and they hit a double team move for the win, and they become the new WWF Tag Team Champions. So now the question is, what happens to the tag title match that was announced for the Rumble? After some flashbacks to moments on Raw over the last year and the Royal Rumble update, Ludwig Borga picks up a squash match win. Nothing else to say there. I gotta be honest, while I don't care for some guys because their gimmicks aren't my cup of tea, like Bastion Booger, Borga, Lex Luger, Men on a Mission, and some other guys that will be in the Rumble. At least I know how they were booked around the time, and I'm actually looking forward to the Rumble pay-per-view and the match itself. Before, I wouldn't even look at a Royal Rumble pre-1997, just because I didn't know many of the guys that were involved. We also see some footage from a different show of Undertaker speaking to Yokozuna from the big screen after his match, just putting more fear into the champion before their casket match at the Rumble. And speaking of which, Undertaker coming out for a jobber match. On commentary, Savage says that he can see Taker winning the championship, and then Vince says that Savage will win the Royal Rumble and go on to face Taker at WrestleMania, which sounds 100 times better than what the actual main event came to be. Obviously, Undertaker gets the win here, so let's move on. I don't know how many people are old enough, but when I used to watch sitcoms, they always had a throwback episode where the characters will remember things from the past. And these shows would do it during the final seasons to give you some nostalgia about the show. But Monday Night Raw does it weekly, and they recap whatever happened just the week before. So we can't even get nostalgia because we are still living in that moment. I'd be fine with them just telling us why something is happening on commentary or do it in a video package at the start of the show like they did earlier. But I hate when they show a replay where they show it mostly in its entirety. And that's what they did for the Bastion Booger and Bam Bam Bigelow match. And then the match ended up being a quick one. So I had no idea why they hyped it up so much just for it to be as quick as it was. Bastion got Bigelow to the outside, so then Luna tried to seduce him until Bigelow got back on him and he nails him with the flying headbutt for the win. So then we see Johnny Polo and the Quebecers making excuses about why they lost, but Jacques reminds them that Polo signed for a rematch clause in the contract, so next week I believe they will get their match before the Rumble. They say it's at Madison Square Garden, so it's not going to be on Raw, it's going to be at a house show, but they were promoting that Madison Square Garden event heavily on Raw, so it's looking to be a big show, and I'm not talking about Paul White. Speaking of next week, IRS is taking on Randy Savage, so before the show ends, IRS comes out to get in the face of Macho Man, but Savage grabs the anniversary cake for Raw and smashes it in Irwin's face, and that's something else I want to keep track of. How many cakes from here on out don't get smashed? Along with when the words wrestler and belt stop being used, and later when Flair returns to WWE, if he wears red when he loses and blue when he wins. That's something I'm just going to keep track of myself, and I might mention it on these reviews from time to time, but yeah. Let's move on to the awards. For the best moment, I had the 123 Kid and Marty Jannetty winning the belts. Throws a curveball that probably nobody saw coming before the Rumble, but then winning got a good pop from the crowd, so yeah. For the worst moment, I had the amount of recaps that were on this show, mainly the Bigelow and Bastion Booger replay of last week. Everything was shown. For the worst match, I had Bigelow versus Bastion Booger. For the best match, I had the Quebecers versus Marty Jannetty and the 123 Kid. Wackest performer, I had Ludwig Borga. Sure, Booger was there, but at least he had a reason. They literally cut back from a Raw flashback straight into Ludwig's match. So it shows you how much they actually cared for this guy. Stand-up performer, I'll go with Marty Jannetty for this one. This episode of Raw, I don't know if I can really give it a pass because of one match, But I think I will give this one a good grade. They also did some more with the Taker and Yokozuna match. Even though it was from a different show, it still counts. And they really promoted the hell out of next week's show, so they really get you interested for next week, as well as having a decent show this week. So, with all that being said, I'm out.